I do want to say quickly, I know we have a lot of images, so I only have one thing that I want to talk about, and that is the annual Holiday and Awards banquet um, coming up in 2 weeks from tomorrow on December 10th. It would be great to see as many people there as we can get with a guest. It's at a new location for those of you who are familiar with the past several years. We're at a new location and it's on a golf course. It's the Rendezvous restaurant located at the Heather Gardens Golf Club in Aurora. And Cecilia scoped it out and found this little gem, and I think it's gonna just be wonderful. And I hope that everyone can get RSVP'd and paid up for this, and look forward to seeing you all there. That's all I have. Carl, you're muted.
Don't you read lips? Yeah, I was going to say that the deadline for that is December 1st, as I remember. So
Right.
probably on Friday, I'll send out a reminder, get the information out again to everybody. Hopefully we can, like you said, maximize how many people are there.
Yeah, we have I don't know what the highest number of new members in any given year is, but this year we've had the most since I've been involved in the club, and would love to see veterans and rookies alike at this. I think it would be a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Well, I did my RSVP this morning, sent my check in, so you can count on me.
Thanks, Tom. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, so it's been mentioned a couple of times that we've got 58 images tonight. Tonight we're doing night photography. And our judge is Larry Treadwell. Larry's in Florida, joining us via Zoom, obviously. So again, we've got the whole country time zones covered with people joining in here.
Almost as wide a range as my last judging competition. We had them from around the globe.
Nice. So I see we have an extra Bob here tonight. Might you be Bob Corson?
Looks like Bob Corson to me. Yep.
All right. Okay, good. Thank you for joining us again, sir. And at the moment, I don't see other guests. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about Larry. He lives in South Florida, is an accomplished nature and wildlife photographer. He's twice been selected as a U.S. National Park Artist in Residence. He's also conducted a lecture series on photographing the Florida Everglades, the U.S. Botanical Gardens in Washington, D.C. He's a member of PSA and teaches an online course titled Creating Images for Competition. He serves as moderator for 2 digital dialogue groups and judges numerous Photographic Club monthly competitions, as well as serving as a judge for international competitions. He's a member of the Florida Council of Camera Clubs and he has regularly served as on a panel of judges for the semi-annual State of Florida Photographic competition. He also conducts photographic excursions to birding areas in the Florida Everglades for individuals or small groups who visit South Florida. And obviously reservations are required for that. Larry, if somebody wanted to come down there and go wander around the Everglades with you, you've got a contact form on your SmugBug site, I see. Would that be the best way to get in touch with you?
Use it, just use that. That's the easiest way.
Okay.
And you don't want to do that in the summertime.
Sure.
You do not want to do it in the summertime. We have kamikaze mosquitoes who will pick you up and carry you away.
Exactly.
Cooler weather for us is the better time to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I lived in Florida for almost 30 years. I was up in the Tampa Bay area,
Oh,
but I did wander down to Everglades area and the Keys and Corkscrew Swamp and a few other places. But yeah, I know what you absolutely agree with you in the summertime that the giant mosquitoes are all out there.
it is bad.
Yeah.
It gets really bad. But if you are going to go to South Florida on the West Coast, I urge you to go look up the Ted Smallwood store. It's down on Chokoloskee Island. It's way down on the southwest corner, but it's a unique experience. It'll take you back 150 years, and they have all the store is stocked with all the original products, and you can also get some great shots of the Milky Way from their back porch.
Interesting. Very nice. So is there anything you'd like to add to what I said, or
Oh,
do you want to talk a
please.
little bit about your judging style?
All right. Um, in terms of judging, what I look for is an image that is going to show technical excellence and is also going to show a bit of creativity and a little bit of trying to tell a story with your image rather than just take a standard image. So those are the most important things I'll look for. Um, Strong subjects and good composition. I mean, I try to bring that all into it. What I really look for is the creativity. Don't just show me the same thing I've seen 1,000 times because I've seen it 1,000 times.
Exactly. Yeah.
Try to think outside the box.
All right. I will go to our Bob Bartlett. Are you ready to go?
Ready.
All right. Let's start the show.
All right.
So Bob's going to be showing the images in Lightroom. We always throw up this calibration image just so, as we know, Zoom can kind of mangle images a bit. If this image looks a little bit low contrast or soft or off color a little bit, remember that everything else you're looking at tonight will be off that same amount. And of course, Larry has all the original images, so if you need to, if you can pop back and forth between Zoom and the originals that I sent you,
Mm-hmm.
if you need clarification on an image or want to take a closer look at it, that's helpful.
Okay.
But just me looking at it, the contrast doesn't look as snappy as what I would expect. But other than that, I think it looks all right. Of course, that's just me and my screen.
I've gone through the images several times, so I have a pretty good feel for what they look like
Awesome.
on my monitor anyway.
Right.
You ready to go?
Yeah. As the image comes up, I will read the title. So if you'd pause a second or two and let me get the title out, just so everybody knows what we're looking at, and then go ahead with your commentary and scoring. So this is Later in the Evening.
Okay. What I first see is a cityscape, a street scene, and one of the things I like about it is the depth that you've shown. Uh, with the lights going back, it adds a lot to it. You've also opened up enough shadows that it's not full of large black holes, so that's kind of neat. I think that I'm not real thrilled with the composition in terms of the big street light hanging across the middle of the image, because I think that what you've created is a horizontal blocker that makes the image more difficult to look at. So I'd like the image a lot better without that row of stoplights hanging in the center. Other than that, it's a decent image, but it lacks a really punchy impact. So I would score this as about an 8. It's still dark.
Yeah, Bob, we're just seeing a big square there. Um, is this like before where you shared the application instead of sharing the entire screen? You might need to stop sharing and then reshare. We've had this issue once or twice before.
Hmm.
Quirks with Zoom.
This one does not have a strong subject.
We need a next image there.
I'm still on the same one.
Yeah. This is Dinner After Dark.
Okay. The first thing that comes up when I see this on the screen is the lack of the leveled horizon line or the leveled verticals. If you look at the sides of the buildings, the lines kind of tip a little bit to the left. And that's an automatic no-no. I mean, when judges look at that, they get all upset about it. You can change that in Lightroom very easily. It's an automatic fix, but whenever you get through with an image, before you think about closing it, just check and make sure you have those lines right, because it detracts from the image and it just throws the eye out right away. Um, but beyond that, I like the composition. I like the balance to it. I like the way you found a single building in the center, and I like the way you picked a building that's got kind of red awnings on it. That red adds impact, a little bit of punch to it. You've also got a couple green doors at the bottom, so that the colors help give some interest to the image. Beyond that, it's technically sharp. The exposure is good. But again, we don't have anything exciting to it. It's a nice image of a street. It has buildings on it, but the originality and the creativity doesn't stand up. And for that reason, I'll give that an 8.
Freewheeling down the pier.
Okay. All right. The first thing in this image, yes, you've got good focus and you have good exposure to it, but we're missing the scene. It's so much black in it that there's not enough going on to carry the image. The Ferris wheel is just kind of a static thing. It just sits there. It doesn't have any real punch to it. If you could have opened some of those shadows or increased your exposure a little bit and pulled up some detail in that, whatever that is along the shoreline. I can't tell because it's too dark. But if you added something to that, just to give it some interest, because as it is, I'm just looking at a round wheel, and there's not enough in that to carry an image. So that's a 7.
Lights a mile high.
Okay. There's a lot of things I like about this image. I think the exposure works really neat. I like the drama from the sky. I like the reflections in the water that come with it. All that adds a lot of interest to the image. But in terms of a composition, you got a few things which we might want to look at. If you look at the foreground in the bottom, notice the land kind of slopes off to the left and kind of disappears at the end. You got to do one of two things. Either you got to get more of that land in there so it doesn't have that little drop off, or you got to get rid of it. Um, because as it is, it just looks like something's missing. Again, this is another one of those things in Lightroom you can fix this in. Anytime you have an image like this and you have large, dense black shadows that are featureless, it looks like something, it looks like you didn't get the exposure right, like something's missing in there. You don't have to open those shadows across the center very much, but you tweak them a little bit so you get just a little bit of detail in it. And using some of the new Lightroom features like their landscape, you could select those trees, whatever they are, and pull up just a little bit to have something in there so you don't get that big black band in the middle because it makes it look like something's been left out of it. Um, I can because of the drama that's in it, I can make this an 8.
Mushu's big brother.
All right. While I like the image, in essence, it's not yours. You're taking somebody else's piece of art and displaying it as your image. If you put it in some kind of a context, if you put it, because it's the same thing. If you photograph a street sign, you've done nothing to it. If you just photograph a statue and it just stands there, you've done nothing to it. To be a photographer, you need to incorporate something to show you are in control. You are making an image. You are creating something rather than just copying what is already there. And as a competition image, that kind of thing doesn't work. So that comes out to be a 7.
Heading north on the Inside Passage.
All right, it's an interesting image. One of the things I like is the dark clouds and the dark water, and it's kind of it's a very moody image. You have enough detail in the ship that it stands out, but where's the impact? Where's the punch to it? I don't have a sense of much going on. It's the boat is just sitting there. It could be sitting still. It could be just rest. I don't know. There's not enough detail to support an image and make it exciting. Um, if you're going to talk about impact, you got to do something that's going to hook it. I always talk about an image as if I'm sitting in a dentist office waiting to get a tooth pulled and I'm flipping through a magazine. How long will I remain looking at this image? Is there enough in there that'll hold me, or am I going to sit and suffer with my teeth? So you want to have something that's got impact, something that's going to add punch and excitement to it to bring it up. This is a 7.
Orion Nebula.
Okay, these image these images always intrigue me because this is not something we get to see very often. And because we do not get to see it very often, it has a feel of originality. I am not a expert on deep space photography. So whenever I do a competition and I see something like this, I start looking it up. And I go back and I start reading about, and I've talked to people at planetariums about what I'm supposed to find in these kind of images. So I put a lot of homework into in before I would judge an image like this. And what I will tell you about this image, for me, I think there's a lot of interest in this. I like the swirls in the main body in it. I like the way it blends together. I like the way you've retained some detail and some interest. Uh, I would think the image would be stronger if we cut down from the top and drop off that little blob in the upper area because it's not adding anything positive to the image. It's just a distracting light at the top. The story and the image is all about what's in the center. So if you clean that stuff off the top and leave just the bottom, I think your image is stronger. But for a deep space shot, I think this is very well done. So I'm going to give this A 9. Okay. Uh,
This is a view of Athens.
I applaud the photographer who took this because you did something different. I very, very rarely ever see Athens at night. It's almost always shot in the daylight. Um, but here you've changed the mood of the city, and it's a whole different feel than what you usually see. And I think that's neat. You don't have a lot of deep shadow areas in it. You've got detail throughout the image. So I've got something to look at to it. The only thing that I would tell you with something like this is you have a huge, massive, empty sky. And that huge amount of sky is not helping you. You could reduce the sky by half easily, and you still have the feel of the night. You still have the feel of the sky because if you look at this, almost a third, almost half of your image is blank. There's nothing there. If there were clouds, if there were stars, if there was something there to sell that sky or give it purpose, I think that would be better. But without that, it's just a blank sky. But you did a really nice job of getting the city and the textures and the tones in it, and I can bring this in as an 8.
Lost in a train of thought.
A nice job of using your camera. The technical aspects of this, I think, are very nicely done. Um, I like the blur to the background. I like the man where he's pinned in there. We have a sense of motion, a sense of flow that goes to it. I like that a lot. Um, I think again, you want to look at how much the shadow areas help your picture. For me, that big black bush in the lower left corner is not helping the cause any. Um, you can get the same effect and bring more attention to the man and the train in the background if you just crop up from the bottom, and I would say about half of the dark area at the bottom. You can take that part of it off. That'll reduce the bush. The, the the horizontal white lines at the bottom are not helping you. The eye always goes to what is light. The eye always seeks what's light and what's bright. In this case, you got the train and the blur in the background. That's the story. Those white horizontal lines or diagonal lines at the bottom just draw the eye away from your subject, and that weakens the image. I'm going to make this one a 8 and 8.
The lonely night shift.
All right, let's talk again about impact and let's talk about composition because that's what this is all about. You're trying to tell the story of a lonely man, presumably a guard at an office building or something like that in the night. Okay, so what in here detracts from your image? What takes away from what you want to see? You want to present clean images with no distractions, right? A moment ago, I said light. Your eye always goes to what's light and bright. So let me ask you about that white horizontal line in the upper left-hand corner. That, is that helping your image? It's just a distraction. You crop down from the top and get rid of it. That solves that problem. Over on the right-hand side, you got that piece of furniture that's sticking in the corner. Is that adding anything to your image? Is it helping the cause? Probably not. You can crop that off from the other side. At the bottom of the image, you have a series of what we refer to as horizontal blockers, horizontal lines that are just lines that are empty, that are just there, always lock the eye and keep the eye from moving because we see them, we want to know why they're there, so we stare at them. Again, you can pull some of that off the bottom and get rid of those, and then you've got a much more interesting image in it. I think the story element in here, the lonely guy at night, is kind of cool. There's just too much stuff going on around the image that doesn't help you. So you clean those up and your image is much stronger. Uh, I can do this as an 8.
Rained out ref.
All right. This, all right. Well, I have to start at the first part. What's the brightest part of the image? Take a look at what's the brightest part of the image. And if you tell me anything but that frame that goes around the outside, we got a big problem, right? If you put a stroke, a frame around an image, it becomes part of the image. Whether you like it or not, it becomes part of an image, and that's the way judges will look at it. And by having that huge, weighty white frame around the outside, that hurts because you again the eye goes to that bright white and that's what it's going to look at. If you're going to use those kind of strokes, keep them simple, keep them small, and it generally works best if you pick up a tint from somewhere in the image so you make the frame look like it belongs to what's going on. All right, now let's forget the frame and talk about the image itself. This is really cool. I think there's a great story in this. um, I like the minimalistic nature of it. Minimalism is very, very powerful. When you have images that are simple, that are clean, they draw so much more. When you have few elements in an image, each element takes on greater impact than it would normally take on. So the very few pieces in here, the referee, the field, the light in the background, that's the story. That's the emptiness. And that is very, very powerful. Um, I like the feel to this. I like the mood. I like the mist that comes out of the light. I like the puddles on the ground. All that adds to a story. It adds power to the image. I think this is really well done. 9. Get rid of that frame.
Roadside stargazing.
All right. I think this is another unique image. I like lots of things I think in here work well. You've tried to break up that horizontal block or the white across the bottom, and you've broken it up by letting the bushes show through it. That helps take away that, yet it still acts as an anchor to the image. I like the S bend of the car trails or the tail lights or whatever they are. I think that's very cool. What's really neat about them is that the bend and the curve of those is matched by the curve of the Milky Way. So you've got parallel diagonal lines. Both of the lines are rising. That adds power and strength to the image because the lines are thrusting upward and you're moving the eye forward through the image. The exposure for the Milky Way is pretty decent. The image looks like your exposure is a little bit too long because you've got too many, your stars have lost their pinpoints and they become more oblong. So you need to shorten that shutter speed. I don't know. I know you're running a long shot to get the other one, but you could do this two ways. You could actually take this as two pictures and blend them. So you would have you could save it and you could still get your motion and then just have the second shot of the stars. So they would be pinpoints and they'd be much more dramatic and the image would be much more powerful. This is an 8.
In an ancient city.
All right. There is immediate impact with this. There's immediate impact. You have all these dark tones, and you've got this wonderfully warm lit tower in the center of it. The tower is yellow. Yellow is one of those celestial colors, one of the colors accompanied, said to attach itself to deities, to religion, to spirituality. So you've got that yellow column that stands in the center, and you've got a blue background. Yellow and blue are complementary colors. Those two colors dominate the scene, and so that creates a mood of softness, gentle contemplation. This is the second most powerful combination of colors, and you've used them very, very well. I like the fact that you got two little people walking around in the foreground. That adds a human element. It adds some interest to the image. You've kept enough detail in the street to make it interesting. I think this is really nicely done. This is a 9.
Table faces the blues.
Okay. All right. I like the concept. I like the position in the composition with the table off to the side. And then what I also like about this is the lines that you've used in the images. Line is a powerful tool, and you've got a bunch of really interesting lines in this that all balance each other. You've got the lines across the bottom, across the snow. You have the lines of the bench and the table. We're all running left to right. You got the shadows on the extending from the table at the bottom. You got the fence at the top that runs horizontally across the image. And you've done a nice job of not having too much extra stuff at the top of the picture. So that helps the image. The lines in this make the image interesting. It's a nice graphic tool-shaped image. I think it might be more powerful as a black and white or as a monochrome, but as it is, it's a pretty strong image, and I can make this a 9.
Alien abduction.
Okay. The concept is neat. And I get the feel of the spacecraft with the thing at the bottom, the black area at the bottom of it. I get that. Your title is Alien Abduction. So why is there an American flag on the top of it? I don't know. It seems like there's some kind of a missing piece in here. I I like I like images that are cohesive, where everything seems to fit. You're trying to tell me a story of aliens, and yet the brightest part of your image is the non-alien thing, that tower or whatever is sticking in the center of it. So you've got a lot of different things going on. The image doesn't fit together to match the story, and that's where you have the difficulty. Um, Things have to be cohesive and everything has to fit together. And when you have things that don't fit, then it makes the image feel awkward. Um, the technical aspect is pretty good, and I can leave this as an 8.
Beaver Moon and the Monument.
I like this. This is a nice, powerful looking image. Um, I like the colors. We got some blues and golds, nice complementary colors in there. You're also cheating on the other side of it. You have some muted reds and some greens. So you've done a nice job of utilizing complementary colors to blend the image and add interest to it. I think that works really well. I like your placement of the moon. You got it in the right spot to it. Um, Now, these type of images are awkward because what you have is the horizon lines that seem to be going everywhere. You got all these lines, but none of them look like they're quite level. So what I would suggest is with these kind of images, you kind of have to cheat a little bit. You might cheat by tilting the image slightly off on the right, bring the right side down just a little bit to kind of bring that center mountain range, whatever that is, to a little more level area. You got to be careful, but if you look at the left side is lower than the dark peaks on the right side. So you have a little room to balance it off and kind of level that off a little bit. Um, but I think it's a nice image. I like the balance to it. I like the depth that you've shown in it. I like the way you opened up the shadows just enough to make it interesting. And you did a great job of playing with the moon. I don't know if you brought on a fake moon and put it in there or if you just exposed for that. I'm kind of betting there's a little bit of fakery in there somewhere, but um, yeah, the thing you might do is just drop a little bit of that sky out of there because all that empty blue isn't really necessary, but I can make this a 9.
Man on Fire.
All right, the power of this is in contrast between the color and shadow. That's the power of the image. You've got the character in the center, he's understandable, uh, but I don't think that there's enough image in this to propel it and make it a dynamic enough piece. It's a kind of a gimmicky image that physically works, but doesn't have the the composition thrust to make it a whole lot stronger. So I would leave this as an 8.
He always was the contemplative type.
All right, this is really, really close to being very, very dramatic. You're very, very close to this. I like the I like the monotone to this. I like that because monotone read when the color is gone, you bring out texture, you bring out shape, you bring out form. Those are the things that begin to dominate the image, and that's what this image has a lot of. I think your exposure is a little on the hot side. You've got the two white areas in there that are really blown out. Um, you got Lightroom, Photoshop, you can play around with the exposure. You can bring those down a little bit. You can reduce those so they aren't so blown out. And you can then open up the shadows to kind of compensate for the adjustment that you made on the exposure. Or you could even try using a neutral density filter at the top half and bringing those highlights down with that, and that would help it out. But you can't have those blown out areas at the top. But I like the minimalistic approach to it. I like the fact that just the one character in it. I think he's nicely placed in the screen, although you might crop a little bit from the left side because you've got that really dark shadow area that covers maybe a quarter, maybe close to a third of the screen coming from the left. You could reduce that by about half, and then you don't have that black space on the end. And you've got just enough detail on the right to make the backside somewhat visible. I think with a little bit of better editing, this could be an extremely powerful minimalistic image. And uh, I'll make it an 8 because the editing isn't there.
It's a sidewalk sculpture.
Okay. I'm with you if you'd show me more of the sculpture. I You've left it in too much shadow, and I can't tell what it is. You want me to look at the sculpture, no, but to me, and I don't know, I wrestled with this quite a bit this afternoon. Is your sculpture supposed to be that little round thing at the bottom, or is it that round thing along with the piping or whatever it is that comes kind of off on the left side? If it's just if you're trying to sell me on the round thing in the center, then the other is too dominant. If you want to show both of those pieces, then you got to bring up the stuff that's over kind of on the right hand side, so that pipe or whatever it is has a little more character to it because you've faded it into the background too much. One of the things I look for in an image is, does your subject stand out, and is it well separated from the background? If your subject isn't well separated from the background, it becomes weaker. And so I need to see that come out. The other thing you have to ask yourself is your subject compelling? And I suggest look up the word compelling in a dictionary and see what it actually says. Your subject needs to be gripping. It needs to mesmerize the viewer. You got to capture them with your subject because that's what it's all about. And if they can't identify the subject, they get lost. And that's what I have in this. The subject is too muted with all the mess in that center area, and I'm not really sure where you want me to go with it. And so that's what weakens the image. I make this a 7.
Parliamentary glow.
All right. Um, all right. There are a couple things that are really cool in this. I like the overall lighting, I think, is pretty well handled. There's some detail in some of the shadow areas, and I think that works. But what I really like is the flow of the image coming from the lower right corner and kind of wrapping. I can feel the bend in the river, and I can feel me moving around the bend in the river. Um, I would be upset with that white bridge as being a horizontal blocker, except for one thing. The row of lights on the right-hand side that are kind of bowed, they amplify the bend of the walk going around the river. So rather than be a true horizontal line, it becomes a bit of a flowing line. I think that adds an awful lot to the image. I like the mixture of the blues and the golds. Again, blue and yellow are complementary colors. They are reflective, they are contemplative, they are relaxing, and they added that mood to the picture. The image is sharp enough that I have the detail. I can feel the motion of the town. The buildings are all fit together. This is a 9.
The Rhino. And Larry, just for clarification, the RINO in the title is River North. It's a section of Denver.
Oh, okay. All right. Um, Again, I'm looking at this as being the building, I don't know if that's a wall painting behind it and it fits with it or how it goes together. But what I like about this is the feel. What this comes down to is not the rhino. It comes down to the character on the scooter in the foreground because that to me is what this image is all about. Because if you're photographing the wall, then you're photographing nothing. You're just copying somebody else's work. But adding that person to the center, and I'm going to note in this case, if you go back to that one we just talked about with the sculpture on the wall or whatever it was, right? And I said the subject kind of merged into it. I didn't know what it was. I had a hard time picking it out. Look at the person on the bike. The bike itself is, or the board or whatever that thing is. It's bright. The two legs add brightness to it. The lights in the building silhouette the upper body and bring that out. So the subject becomes very clear, and therefore it adds more interest and it tells a better story. So I like the way you've positioned that and you've put it in there to have a flow to it, and I think that works a whole lot better. And I can make this an 8. I love the monochrome in this. I think that worked really, really well. It's a great choice. I really, really like the lines. Monochrome again is about bringing out shape, form, that kind of thing, and the lines count as shapes and forms. So I think you have all those lines and they work really nice. I like the way they start as straight lines at the bottom. They transform to diagonal lines as they move up through the image. And I think that all works really well. I think your exposure is almost there. If you look at the top panel, the white at the top, I can see some lines that are in there. If you pull that exposure down just a little bit and you add those lines to it, then you have the lines carrying throughout the entire image and the whole thing fits together. Um, I'm going to tell you, if you look at where I saw this the most, as I look at the bottom of the image, I think those vertical lines at the bottom are slightly tipped to the left. You might want to check those lines and make sure they're going absolutely straight, because I think that would add a little bit to the image. Um, but the lines are very strong, and I can make that a 9.
This is Celebration.
All right. Fireworks are always exciting. You have great impact based on contrast between the black background and the bright, warm reds and oranges. That's where the punch to the image is. But when you shoot fireworks, getting a mass of them together doesn't really show the form, the shape, the texture, the beauty of the fireworks. Trying to get some of those exposures and open them up. It's all based on the aperture, and it's all based on how long you run the shutter. And if you're not there, if this is a a, a, a fireworks display, you're going to have lots of opportunities to take shots. So I would suggest that you take lots of shots at different exposures. Change the f-stop, change the shutter speed. Don't take the same thing every single time. Take them because every fireworks display is different, and you're trying to get that fairy tale lace work to the fireworks. That's where they're pretty. But when they're all bunched up like this, you don't have the excitement. That's a 7.
This is York. And Bob, after this, we'll pause for the nines and tens and talk to the image makers.
You have a 10 to add to it right now. Um, this is nice. The conversion is really well handled. I like the conversion. You have good blacks, you've got good whites, and you got a whole bunch of midtones scattered through here. And all those midtones make the image. That's where the interest is. That's the power of monochrome. And you've really done a nice job converting this. Um, the only thing there are two little bitty things that I would suggest, and these are just little, but again, we don't want bright areas on the edges of pictures. So on the left side, you got that little strip of windows at the top. I'd close in the left side just a little bit to get rid of that bright area. And on the right side, I get rid of that door frame, that white frame on the right edge. Now you might be able to tone that down and keep some of that, but you don't want to have, especially in a night scene where your eye is going to be drawn to the bright areas. When you put bright areas on the edge of an image, it pulls the eye away from the center. You've got a very, very strong center. The center of it's bright and it has the leading lines to go to it. It's all well done. Just a little bit of trimming on those edges would help it up. This is a 10. This is lovely.
Larry, so you can take a little break, have a drink, whatever you need.
Okay.
We'll go through a half dozen images here, talk to the image makers, and get their commentary on them.
Okay.
All right, so this is Orion Nebula. This is
If they
from
want
Steve.
to ask me questions, they can. I don't mind.
I appreciate that.
No, I thought your comment on the blob at the top is probably right. The Orion Nebula is probably the brightest nebula in the sky. It's in the sword down from the belt of Orion, and this is taken with a C-Star S50 telescope, so it's got a 50 millimeter objective lens. And the way you get this kind of detail is it stacks images. So this was 246 10-second images stacked. And the original there's a really bright area where you see the white area in the middle. And I used a brush mask in Lightroom to tone that down. Although if you were looking at it on something small like a iPhone, if you were showing to somebody, it probably has more punch when the bright area is left alone. But this telescope's $500, so it's an amazing little instrument. It knows where it is. You just tell it you want to go to Orion Nebula, and it finds it and starts taking pictures. So if you've ever struggled taking astrophotography the normal complicated way, this is far less expensive and more fun. What it doesn't do, the really good amateurs will use different filters. This is a Sony um, sensor, so it's got red, white, and blue all in one pixel. And the really good amateurs, of course, they have bigger objective lenses and a lot of technique that you know you could go on the web and find much better pictures than this. But this for $500 is a really fun way to look at the night sky.
Thank you, Steve. And I just want to clarify for everyone that the telescope he was talking about was a C-Star, SEESTAR.
Yeah, I see the border. You're right. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Rained Out Ref is from Kiefer Hunterford.
Yeah, I definitely, I started putting this border on my black and whites, and then I'm OCD, and I kind of like everything to be the same. But you're absolutely right. That white is wrong. This was a night I got a new lens, and I just went out around Lowry. This is near my house, and these poor people were completely rained out. They were trying to do a trophy event, and it was just a nice moment.
Excellent capture, Kiefer.
Thanks.
In an Ancient City is from Oz Fenninger.
Yeah, this was taken on a trip to Uzbekistan not too long ago. And actually on my screen, it doesn't look as good as it did, I think, because of the zoom, but the tower really stands out. So I made the foreground a little darker, just to keep the eye from sticking there and going on to the
Good
light
choice.
tower. There's a tree that has some white paint on it, and I toned that down too, so that wouldn't draw the eye, but just be there and be an element, but not a main element. And we were walking around the city. I found that I actually took this with a cell phone. It's much easier taking pictures like this at night or in dim light with a cell phone than with a big fancy camera. That's about it. I think the city is Bukhara, in case you're wondering. So that's it. A pretty wide angle lens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'll reiterate something you said in the comment, Oz, is that wall, that's a perimeter wall on the city
Right.
from hundreds of years ago, I assume. And
Yeah.
it is thicker at the bottom than it is.
Right.
So
So that they built the wall so it's looks like it's tilted, but that's how it is.
No, I believed that, and when I looked at the picture, my first thought was it's tilted. Then I looked at the picture and said, no, it's not. It's the wall. So that's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I
yes,
was
I
really
understand that.
careful. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I understood that when I looked at the picture, and that's just that's the way it is, and so that's perfectly all right to show it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thanks for your comments.
another wonderful travel photo from your iPhone. Love it.
Thanks.
Table Faces the Blues is from Terry Hanford.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. Yeah, I was very much taken with the lines in this scene, but I was also really taken with the blue, the different light, because this had light coming from a couple directions, including lights that were in the background, and they were a different color. And when I was looking at it, I actually pumped up the blue a little bit because I thought it was so cool. But you're right, it sort of is almost an illustration with all the lines, and it might look better in just monochrome. Anyway, thanks for the comments.
I think judges would like it better as a monochrome because some of them might not. When I looked at it, I I accepted the fact that you had two different colors of light in there, because otherwise it didn't make any sense. But if you turn that to a monochrome, you'll get the table will become the star because that's a brighter white, and the rest will become the midtones, and that will add a lot of punch to the table and a lot of drama to it, and kick it up as well as keeping all those lines in there. So it might be try it and see what it looks like.
Thanks, I will.
And thank you, Terry. Beaver Moon and the Monument. This is from Dave Hull. And Dave noted that this photo was taken the day before the Beaver Supermoon in early November at the Colorado National Monument. City lights in the valley in the background are from Grand Junction. The moonrise that evening was 40 minutes earlier than the sunset, and that allowed the moon to rise above the horizon and get higher in the sky. There was still enough light at sunset to capture detail in the foreground and background in a single shot. Since I used a wide-angle lens, the size of the moon was very small. I switched to my longest zoom lens to take a photo of only the moon, but I wasn't happy with the result. I later downloaded a stock photo of the moon, sized it slightly larger than what I saw that night, and placed it in the same location in the sky as my original image. And now you know the whole story.
I thought that moon was an addition.
Yeah,
Still works.
still works, yes. Still an excellent image. It's that creativity
Yep.
that sometimes is required.
Yep.
Parliamentary Glow is from Gary Witt. I'm surprised Gary's not here. Well, see, if we were at Lone Tree, Gary would be there. He wrote about this image. It was a photo taken from the Citadel in the Buda Hills, that's Buda, looking down on the Danube River at night. The image shows the parliamentary building from a severe oblique angle with a chain bridge in the foreground. Nice work.
Mhm.
Highlight is from John List. And apparently John did not join us this evening either. All he noted here was this was downtown Denver. And York is from Ben Hernandez. And I don't see him on Zoom. It's too bad. I wanted to hear about this.
I do too.
This is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can get back to our competition images.
Okay.
And
Uh,
this will be Castle Guards.
all right. I love the diagonal lines coming from the sides that create a frame around the archway so that the eye is moving down that alleyway into the background. You've got the colors of the yellow and the blue going for you, those nice complementary colors that add that mood to it. I think that's really powerful. Uh, there's really nothing wrong with the way this image comes together. I think you did a great job of balancing the two sides and getting them to look as near as possible to exactly the same thing. The only thing I would say to this image, if you take that light at the top, you might try to bring that highlights and that down just a little bit so it doesn't look quite so burned out. But this is a nice image. This is a 10. I got no complaints with this at all.
This is Cherry Creek Aurora.
Okay. I'm sure this looked a lot better to you than it looks when I get to see it. But the Aurora is nice, but it's not enough to carry the image because there's not enough. The foreground is so small and so it's too far away and it's too small, and so I can't see anything, and it just becomes a line. And so I don't have a strong foreground to carry the image. And the aurora, while it's cool, it's not a spectacular aurora that's going to make the image go, oh my God, this is amazing. So you don't have enough of either one, the foreground or the aurora itself, to be the powerful impact to make this a really strong image. It's a nicely put together image. It just doesn't have the punch to make it that to get to that big wow factor to carry the image. So it's an 8.
The grand finale.
All right. Now I like these fireworks a lot better than the previous ones because in this case we have some detail. You have the little pieces that come off the edge. It's not just a mass of of color. There's some detail, some shape, some form to it. Uh, I don't know if you can open up some of the shadow to that. I'm assuming we're looking at the stadium, I think. I can't really tell. Um, but if you brought some a little bit of that foreground detail up just a little bit so it has an anchor and something we can see, you got a lot of black at the bottom. And so if that isn't the inside of the stadium, then I'd certainly crop about half of that off because you don't need all that extra blank space at the bottom. Big, dark, blank holes don't add a lot of excitement to the image. But this is a nicely done piece of fireworks. I can make this 8.
Neon Boneyard.
All right. When I think about a subject, the first thing I think about is for a strong subject, we need something that is first easily recognized and understood by anybody. You want the subject to be well separated from the background, and you want a subject that is compelling and exciting. That's what's going to carry an image. When you are in a competition, the subject has to stand out so that the judge or the viewer looks at it and goes, I got it. I know what that is. In this case, you've got a lot of pieces there, but I don't know what I'm supposed to look at. And when you have, if the subject is supposed to be all of those pieces, that never works. You need to have a single powerful subject that works and stands out and has that compelling draw to it. And there's just not enough strength in that subject. To me, it looks like that fallen down Z or whatever it is in the center, that because it's in the center and it's right there, I'm assuming that's supposed to be the subject. And I just don't get I don't make a connection to it. It doesn't have enough to carry it. So I'm going to make this 7.
Waiting on the midnight train.
Okay. I like the scene. I like that. But remember what I just said about a subject. And one of the things I said is that the subject is supposed to be well separated from the background. You've got this woman sitting in the front, but note how she kind of blends into that jumble of bars and pieces behind her. She doesn't stand and pop out. We had a diner or whatever that was with the rhino on it a little bit ago, and I pointed out how the subject was silhouetted by the light, and where she wasn't silhouetted by the light, then her light colored legs and the light colored scooter made her stand out. So the subject there separated from the background and stood out. Here, the subject is blending into it and it gets lost. And you want your subject to be something the viewer locks onto and connects with right away. I'm going to add one more little piece that will help, or 2 pieces actually, that will help you with this. Look at the sign at the top where it says 16th and California. I bet there's an IA on the end of that someplace. And if you're going to put a sign up there, like especially a sign that's bright and white like that, and the reader's going to see it, add the other letter. And at the same time, that great big white spot on the left-hand side, that spotlight on the top edge on the left, you just crop that down from the top a little bit and get rid of that because you don't need that big bright light on the outside edge. So this becomes a 7.
Motor City.
Oh, this is lovely. This is just plain out lovely. I've seen a lot of skylines, lots and lots of skylines. And they're always done so they stand out. And what makes this, I like something that's original, something different, something unique. And you got all that fog or mist or whatever the heck is going up there. And I think that stuff in the sky is absolutely lovely. I think this is absolutely lovely. Bad weather makes good pictures. I mean, it just does because you don't get to see it a lot. And so this is something unique. It's something different, and it's something that really is interesting. You'll look at that. I mean, there's no way you can look at that and not look at that fog or mist, whatever it is. It just adds a whole lot to the image. I would crop a little bit off the bottom. Again, you got a huge amount of just empty water at the bottom, and your reflections aren't dramatic. There's not really any detail to them. So you might, by cropping some of that off, you keep the feel of the water and you feel of the reflections. We haven't got such a large mass of blank area, but the sky and the fog is just fascinating. 10.
Lights on at the museum, or excuse me, at the mansion.
All right. This is just a lovely exposure. You hit this exactly right. You don't have any burned out areas that are terrible. That all fits. I mean, there are lights on, and there's going to be some light wherever there happens to be, but you've got such lovely detail in those rocks on the walls and the window frames. The lights in the windows aren't all blown out. There's detail in them. I like the angles on the tile in the foreground that actually kind of diagonally move me towards the center, towards the building. I think the addition of the person walking towards it helps to add a little bit of interest to it. This is just lovely. I like the blue hour sky. That's very dramatic. I mean, it's just blue, but it's got that deep midnight blue tones to it that really blend with those nice yellow lights, and you're back to the complementary colors and all that neat stuff. This just plain works. If you're going to do anything to it, you might lighten the shadow on that bush on the right-hand side, just in where that dark area is. Just bring it up just a tiny bit so it doesn't have that whole feel to it. And you're lovely. And you're also a 10.
Cherry Creek backwater at night.
Okay. I'm going to go back to my line about a subject. And we talk about having a strong subject is something that is easily understood, that is well separated from the background, that people look at and identify with. And then we're back to that piece of being compelling. That compelling thing matters. And in this, there's a lot going on, but it just looks like a bunch of leaves. And there's not that compelling feel to it. It's I like the effect that you have. I wish there was something in the foreground that would lock my eye, that would make me come in and connect to it and feel like I belong there. But there's just too much light pieces going on in the foreground, and they don't make a compelling subject. Um, it's a 7.
Night Guardian.
All right. You're still playing kind of with that orange blue tones. Those always work nicely together. Uh, I like the diagonal of the Milky Way. I like the diagonals of the rock in the foreground. I like the exposure on the rock in the foreground because I have lots of neat detail and lots of uh, tones and textures that show throughout that, and that makes it neat. I think your exposure is pretty good. It's got the stars look more like points of light rather than oblongs, so I think that's pretty well handled. Um, I would make it a 10 if you had a little more anchor for the foreground. You've got that little piece of, I'm going to call it grass, but plant life, whatever it is at the bottom. Uh, I think there should be a little bit more of it because that big, huge rock needs something to sit on. It needs to have a connection to the image and feel like it belongs rather than like you're trying to cut it out. And without giving it an anchor, it just feels awkward. You had a little more anchor space at the bottom, I think it would be a whole lot stronger. But this is a really nicely done image. It's a 9.
Out for an early morning stroll.
All right, I like this also, and I like it because of the detail. Um, the man is clear. He separates from the background. He's completely silhouetted. He stands out either between the walk he's on or the lightness of the upper half of his body against the dark hole of the background. So he's well separated and he's balanced within there. You did a great job with the trees on the sides and pulling all those together. I feel like I can walk down this lane with him. I think what you might consider doing is cropping down from the top almost to you just come down to where the first part of the lower trees start to show. So you get rid of that kind of open, heavy branch stuff at the top, which isn't selling anything. Keep the trees at the bottom where they have the lights in it and the points in there, and it's much more interesting. It's an 8.
Kansas gas stop.
All right. Blue hour photography is rarely done. People just don't get out and shoot the blue hour. And doing so makes it unique. And I love the blue tones that run throughout the image. You've got a good subject. It's well separated. It stands out. There's enough brightness to those pumps in the center that I know what they are. I like the light at the top, but I also like the light at the bottom. It kind of gives it a balance. I like the shadows in the foreground that act as leading lines going towards it. I love the blue background behind it. This is one of those neat minimalistic pictures that just looks dreamy. And one of the neat things is I like the format. You have stretched this out so it's wide. This isn't a standard 8 by 10 or anything like that. I like the expanse of it because you make this little gas station thing look lonely. You make it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing there but it. And that space around it, that use of the negative space adds a lot to this image. It's really nicely put together. That's a 10.
Dinner in a bubble.
All right. I got a nice family gathering. They're sitting in there. Again, you played with the blues and the yellows. Those colors always work. They're always kind of moody. That kind of fits that thing together. Uh, it's a nice story, but it lacks, they're not together. Look at them. They're looking off to the, they're looking off to the left, and there's something there, and I don't know what it is. I'd like to know. It just feels like that something should be there. I don't like the black leaves at the bottom. I don't think they're adding anything to the picture as a foreground. They're just an extra thing that blocks the image. It's a nice put together composition, but it's not compelling. It's an 8.
Bogarting that cigarette.
All right, the subject is clear. It stands out from the background. It's there. He's a nice guy. I'm sure if I get to know him, I probably like him a whole lot better. But he's not a compelling subject. There's nothing really unique about him. He's just a guy standing there. And there needs to be a story or something that connects him to what's going on or something that brings this together. And all that is missing. It's just another person standing on a sidewalk. That doesn't give it a lot of power or strength. That's a 7.
Fog noir.
All right, I like the foggy feel to it. I like the triangular shape of the main part of the composition created by the light. Uh, I wish the car was a little bit stronger, uh, maybe a little bit sharper. It just feels like it's too faded. I'd like to have something a little more solid to go with it. It's a nice scene of it, but it lacks, again, it lacks that punch to really carry it up that I think would make it more interesting. I'm going to make this an 8.
Crossing lines.
All right. Again, the lines are good. There's a lot of diagonal lines. Diagonal lines add strength. They come to a peak in the center. Everything is kind of pulling me up to the center of that thing. The brightest part of the image is that singular light column. It's the centerpiece, and that again stands out. It's separate from the background more than the others, so it stands up. You've got the blues and the yellow colors working together to add that feeling of comfort. I would crop either from the left or from the top and get that white spot out of the upper right-hand corner. You don't want bright spots along the edge of an image because they draw the eye away. But this is still a 9.
Let me out. I want to run too.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about this on 2 levels. Uh, When I first opened the image, I really wanted to fall in love with this. I like the runner in the foreground. To me, she's the story. The kid in the wagon, stroller, whatever he is, there's not enough of him to carry the story, especially in a dark scenes such as this. Um, I also think that all those bright lights in the background, they're so bright, and they draw me away from the girl. And I want to lock in on that subject. And you're you have too much going on, too much competing with her. I remember the eye goes to the light and the bright, and the brightest part of it is that stuff over on the right-hand side. I'm going to give you a little exercise to try with your images, and you can all do this anytime you have an image anywhere. When you have an image, you want to see how strong your subject is. How powerful is it really? Put the image into, in this case, Lightroom, and flip it vertically upside down. What that does, it will disorient your eye because your eye is looking for something it recognizes. And when it doesn't, when you flip it upside down, everything becomes kind of disorienting to your mind's eye. And what your eye will do automatically is go for the one thing it's been trained by nature to do, and that is look for the lightest and the brightest spot in the image. And you will find that your eye will go to the bright area in your image no matter what it is. And if you flip this upside down, I took it out and I tried it. Your eye will go and look at all that bright stuff on the right-hand side, and that's taking away from your subject. So you just try it with a few of your images and see if it doesn't help you orientate to where your subject actually is. Ideally, your subject should be the bright part of the image, unless it's being silhouetted around it or something like that. But ideally, your subject should be the brightest. And here you have that other stuff competing with it, and that weakens it. It's an 8.
Two-wheel coming.
All right. The best part about this for me is your camera angle. I like the fact that you got down low and you are shooting down the lane with the subject coming towards you. I like that unique camera angle. I think that adds an awful lot to any image. Um, your subject is the guy on the bike, but he's not a strong subject because he really doesn't stand out. He's about the same as all the buildings, and they're all kind of there. And he's the light that's on him with that highlight behind him kind of half blots him out, and I'm losing him into the mess of all the buildings and the stuff that's around him. So he doesn't have that dynamic, powerful subject force that makes him unique. That's why he's a 7.
Small Town Friday Night.
Okay. Um, there are two things I like about this image. At the beginning, I like the sweep of the road that comes in from the right and bends around and then goes off into the background. That same bend and arc is picked up by the taillights that are either coming or going, but they look like they're fading into the background. So you have those two leading lines that wrap together and lead me down the street. I think that works really well. If I look at those lines as being leading lines, then the lines of the lights in the background kind of do the same thing. They're leading me back down that line. The street lights go down that line. The white lights, the little ones against the back wall, those are going down the line. Everything is moving down and taking me back down that street. And so there is continuity and motion and connection that goes with that. And I think that works really, really well. You might crop down from the top a little bit. You don't need all that black hole at the top. Come down maybe to the top of that building that shows in the center, and that would eliminate some of that and put more emphasis on the lines going down. But this image is about the lines and the diagonals that go with it, and it's a 9.
In the Christmas Spirit.
Okay. You've got the big powerful tree in the center. It's clearly the subject. The red building in the background adds to the holiday feeling to it. Red is a powerful color. You can't get away from it, so it's there. You're going to look at it. It adds the weight to the left side of the picture, so the composition isn't as strong as it might be. You might try to pull that blue tree towards the center a little bit more, because your eye's going to go to that red. Your eye always going to go to red. That's why your eye goes to a stop sign, because that red color dominates. And by putting the red color off on the side, you're pulling me out of the picture. So you might shift this whole thing just a little bit to the right, and that would pull those two pieces together and make them a twin subject in the center, and that would make it a little bit stronger. And like I said once before, these are powerful, tall, big pieces that are vertical, and add a little extra street or whatever it is at the bottom, so they have a place to sit, a place to live, and a place where they sit like they belong. But the powerfulness of the colors, I can make this an 8.
Train.
Okay. I don't remember that station the last time I passed through that town, but nevertheless, um, I like the feel to this. And in this case, I don't mind the large amount of black sky, because you got some nice little clouds in there that break it up, and that adds a little bit of interest to it. So that makes the sky become part of the picture and not an extra. Um, the, the big cell here is the sign right on the cent, because that's the brightest spot. That's what I'm going to go to. That's what I'm going to look at. So that has the dominant piece to it. Um, the image is nicely balanced. The weight of the lights on the left balance the bright column over on the right-hand side, and that gives it kind of an even feel to it. The image is cohesive, it fits together, and it's a 9.
Caribbean Nights.
I think this is extremely dramatic. I really think this is very dramatic. I think your focus is as sharp as it can possibly be, and that needle sharp. I'm going to use a phrase that comes out of New England, but it works. This is what I would call wickedly sharp. You can cut yourself on this. And that absolute sharpness adds strength and power. You got clean, sharp lines in the deck planking. You got the rigging pieces. You got the white rails. You got the netting. You got all these lights. All these items are sharp and clear and add to the picture. They're telling me the story of the boat. I can feel that I'm standing on a deck of a ship in the middle of the night, sailing into the unknown. It's got tremendous power to it. This is just so dramatic. Um, you might take just a little bit off that left side, not a lot, but take, because you got a huge empty black hole over there, and you don't want to have all that weight and that blackness, you might reduce that, take maybe a third of that off, so it just has a little bit there, because the boat is moving to the left, and so you need a space for the boat to move into. You just don't need that much because there's nothing in it. But this is nice and dramatic and powerful. I want to go for a ride. 10.
Sorry, most.
Okay. This is just a really nice conversion to black and white. Uh, you did a great job of this. You have true blacks, you have true whites. Excuse me. You've got lots of various midtones that flow throughout the image. The archway makes a fine focal point that leads me back and adds depth to the picture because there's something going on behind it. Um, I think this whole thing fits together very powerfully. I don't think I want to change anything in the thing at all. I think it looks just absolutely fine the way it is, and I made that a 10.
Alien Bridge.
Okay. Um, Again, I've got conflicting pieces in this. It starts with the foreground. Look over on the right, on the left-hand corner, and you got that little bit of sky hanging around the bottom. That's a bright spot on the edge of the picture. Why do we need that there? Pull up your bottom and get rid of all that mess down there. You want to keep the images clean and neat and avoid clutter. And to me, that's just clutter that's sticking at the bottom. You can drop that off, just crop it up from the bottom and get rid of it. That would add a lot of strength to it. I like the lines that flow to the image. They move towards that tower in the back with the two little lights at the top. It gives it a strong anchor. Um, I made this a 9.
Okay, these images are critique only. That last image was our
Oh, I
last
see what you're saying.
official. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when we talked, I mentioned that we've got some
Yeah,
critique on the images
you
that,
did. You
and
did.
they may or may not be night photography, basically that someone can put in anything if they're considering an image for a future competition or something like that. So,
Okay.
but
Okay.
if you would do the same commentary and scoring,
Sure.
scoring gives the person an idea of how strong the image is, of course.
Okay. The
So this
problem.
one is late night drinks.
All right. I like the image. I like the figure tells the story with the glasses at the bottom, but I think your composition is killing you. The first thing I do is crop that off the top. You got too much going on at the top that's not helping the image. Get rid of all those lines at the top that go off, all the ones that start on the left and go up. Just bring it down so you have all those lines disappearing at the top. That will clean up the top of it. The glasses on the table are nicely photographed. They look nice, but they're hanging in midair. They need a table to sit on. So you need to drop that bottom a little bit. And again, I've said this several times tonight. Give the items a place to live, some place where they can sit down and feel comfortable, whether it's grass or ground underneath a tree or a table under glasses and bottles. They need something to sit on to give them a place in which to live, and that would make this a lot stronger. No score. Okay.
All right. So let me mispronounce this first. Leading lines.
I'm sorry.
It's actually LEDing lines. A little play on words there for somebody.
Okay. Um, a few minutes ago, we had that boat, and I told you how wickedly sharp it was, and it was. I don't think the rails on this fence are as sharp, and it's kind of a shame they aren't because adding the sharpness to this would add some pop and drama to the image. You've also got this huge black hole over on the right-hand side. You have some detail that shows in the buildings on the left, but you got nothing on the buildings on the right. It's just this massive black hole over there. And that when you leave a black hole like that in an image, it looks like you forgot something. And it makes it look like your exposure isn't right. So what you've done is you've created kind of a detraction in the image, excuse me, that just doesn't hold up. So between the sharpness and the black holes, that's what makes this image much weaker.
All aboard?
Okay. You better hurry to get that train. Um, I like the yellows and the blues. Those are always good complementary colors. They work well in it. The fact that he's got the blue suitcase with him it kind of possesses him with the train and adds a little bit of strength to it. I'm going to go back and talk about the stuff on the edges that you don't like. You don't like bright colors on the edge. Let's start on the left side and talk about the distraction. That end of the coach, that silver gray, whatever that is, it doesn't need. It just doesn't need to exist. You crop in from the edge up to the beginning of the blue part of the coach, and you get rid of all that extra clutter over on the side. Let's look at the brightest spot in the picture is up in the upper right-hand corner, that bright area. There's 3 areas of bright white up there. They're not helping you. Drop that down from the top. You can come right down to the top where it says track and get that off the top and get those bright spots off the edge. I would also take and do a little bit of editing and tone down those posts on the far right because again, they're bright spots on the edge because the story is about the guy in the train. That's what you want the viewer to look at. That's what it's all about. And the more you can focus on the guy in the train and have less of the other distractions to look at, I think it'd be stronger. You might have even, and this is just a thought, taken a step to the right, and then you could have gotten rid of all those posts on the right-hand side, and you would put him in a better angle of heading into the train, and that would add more strength to your story.
Not a Hollywood set.
All right, this is a nice conversion to black and white. This is a nice conversion. You got good blacks, you got good whites. Your exposure is just magnificent. I love the lace work at the top. I love the strength that goes in that. I like the just the compositional balance that goes to it. I think all of that is strong and very dynamic. I would again, here I go again, leave a little more space in the bottom. We need a place for that. There's a lot of weight in that structure, and that weight needs a place to sit. And you kind of cheated it out of a base, adding a little bit. I'm not talking about a lot, adding a little bit to that base so it has a place to sit would make the thing feel at home. This is a really, really strong image. You sure I can't score it?
Well, you can score it. In fact, I was going to ask if you would,
Can I?
please give it a, oh yeah, because
10.
it's a good point of reference for the photographer.
That's a 10. That's a
Awesome.
great image. I
Okay.
mean, two things would add to it. A little bit of space at the bottom and a little bit of black space at the top because that big round tower on the left almost touches the top edge. You
Right.
see this tiny, tiny gap. You could,
Yes.
if you could increase that negative space at the top just a little bit, so it doesn't feel like that tower's touching, and you give it a place to stand, this would be a whole lot stronger. And this is, as it is, you have texture, you have tone, you have shape, you got everything you want in a black and white picture. You got everything you want in a black and white picture, and it's nicely exposed. And this is really nice. You should, you could enter this in a PSA competition and get something for it. And it's a really nice image. Don't sell yourself short. You did a great job with it.
Very nice. Thank you, Larry. This is splash pad anticipation.
All right. It Yes, it is. I like the falling water, the pending falling water. I think it's kind of neat. I think you got it at the right time. Rather than most people would have that all spilling all the way out and would get messy. But you got it at just the right time to add a little bit of interest, a little bit of anticipation to go with it. I think the lines are strong. The sky in the background adds interest rather than leaving it just as a blank spot. Um, I don't think it's an award winner, but I think it's a very powerful image simply because it's different. Um, but it's not going to create the punchy wow factor, but I think it's a very dramatic image and a very interesting one. So in that sense, it's quite good, and I like the conversion. There's good lines to it.
And this is Beam Me Up, Scotty.
Okay. The first thing I notice is the steeple of the church is leaning to the right, and you can straighten that out. You might have to use transform in Photoshop to really, because you don't want to bend it too far because you'll knock the building over. Um, the white part of the building, but that tower on the left, that's got to get that's got to get straightened out. Um, I don't think this feels very natural. I think the sky it just feels like it's very artificial, and because of that, it doesn't have the weight to make it interesting. I like the beam of light, but it needs to go someplace. It needs a connection or a reason for being there. And again, if you're going to include that foreground at the bottom with the little buildings on the edge, then give it a place to rest. Add a little bit of something to it, or just get rid of the whole bottom line, one or the other. But you don't need that kind of halfway in between, because no one knows what it's in between of. Okay.
And if that was in a competition, you'd score it as a what? That Beam Me Up, Scotty.
I'd score that as a 7.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Boats on the Bay of Monterey.
All right. I looked at this image, and it's another image that I want to fall in love with. I think there's a lot of interest in it. I just don't think you took it in the right format. There's something it doesn't hold together. I know the boats are blurred because they're sitting on the water and the water is moving and the boats are rocking and all that. And I can live with the boats rocking on the water. It's okay. But then I got to have something in the image that's sharp. And the city in the background is not sharp. It might be because it's so far away and it's small. It might be because you haven't got enough depth of field set up to hang on to it. And there's a lot of things that can affect that city in the background. But I wish that either the boats or the city were sharp enough that I could hang a hook on. I think personally, I think the city should be sharp and the boats should be left as they are because the boats are kind of unique and different, and they added a whole kind of dramatic of feel that you don't get to see very often. And I think that, and they're sharp enough that I can recognize what they are, as long as they have something to connect them to reality, and that city just doesn't do it. And again, I'm going to talk about that extra sky at the top. It's close to a third of the image, and there's nothing there. So I'd drop some of that skyline down and get rid of about half of that blank sky at the top. Just huge blank air. I know they talk about negative space, but there's having negative space and there's having too much negative space. And here you have too much of what could be a good thing. Cut it in half. If you had stars up there, I'd be happy. You don't have stars up there, so something's got to go.
Waiting at Hilltop.
Waiting at Hilltop. Okay. Um, I want to know what causes those vertical lines in the sky. Um, they're not clear enough to let me know what's going on. Um, I got to ask, as long as we're in this position, this big white frame around it, did you put that there, or did you? Because I don't know why there's so much at the bottom and nothing along the sides and the top by comparison. So if you try to put a border or a framing around it, it's got to balance. It's got to fit together. And I don't know if that's your camera format or what it is, but That
Now this was in post processing. It was made to look like a Polaroid, and I assume the streaks on it was also done in post.
that's what I'm assuming, that there's something, that this is kind of a made up thing. But that's not the kind of image that's going to rock in a competition. Um, because the judge is going to look at it and he's going to look at the picture. And I don't know you're trying to make it into a Polaroid. And I don't know why you would. I mean, what's the purpose? What's the story you're trying to tell? There's not enough there's not enough visual. Remember, all the judge has to look at is what's in front of him. And what I see is the picture in the center, and that's what I'm going to try to score. Um, if you're going to try to do that, you've got to do it a different way, because the story that Carl just described to me is not the story that I see when I look at that as a judge. You haven't given me a strong enough image to work on, and they won't score that with anything positive, just because it looks, you haven't told a good enough story.
Amsterdam evening stroll.
This is a really nice image. This is a really, really nice image. Again, the conversion is very nice. I've got enough midtones, particularly across the center of the picture. The subject, the two people, note how nicely separated they are from the background. They're more or less silhouette, but there's enough light, bright stuff behind them that gives them the separation, so they stand there. There's a good story being told with that. The details in the building adds interest to it. You might have too much of the street at the bottom. You might be able to squeeze a little of that off, because it's a lot of nothing. So you might try to take maybe just a little bit of that off the bottom, and that would cut some of that down. Otherwise, this is very strong. This would score very high.
And that score might be
At least a 9.
cool. Thank you. This is a penny for your thoughts, Mr. Lincoln.
Okay. This is a rather unique view of the Lincoln Memorial. It's not the view that you usually see, and that adds interest to it. Part of it is the fact that you shot it at night. Part of it is just the composition that you put of the building that makes it feel different. The only thing I would suggest, I mean, Lincoln is the subject. He's bright. He's in the center. He shows it. He's magnificent, and that's where it all is. Let's look at the top of the picture, and you got that black strip across the top. I know it's a sky, but is it interesting? Do I care? Um, if I would crop that down to the first truly horizontal line at the top. If you look at that bright spot in the center, it's kind of got a peak in the middle of it. Get rid of that piece too. Because if you don't get rid of that piece, you're going to have little bits of black stuck on the corner, and it's going to look odd. But if you get down to that first row of bricks that are square, take that off the top, and it's nice. Um, if you cut that piece off and leave it as it is, this could be a very strong image. And again, we want me to do a number?
Please, yeah.
9.
Telluride.
Okay. Um, I think you did a nice job of picking this early morning feeling up. Um, that, and I think that works for the image. But I'm going to talk about the fact that the subject is the hot air balloon, and I want you to note how the top of it is blending into the mountain in the background. A little bit of fine editing would make this really pop. If you select the balloon and then brighten the balloon just a little bit, because if you do that, the top of the balloon will begin to separate from the mountain, and then the balloon will stand out and be your subject. And rather than have it blend in, it'll 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 be there. We already know that the balloon is bright because you can see the bottom half of it is bright. So by adding just a little bit of editing to the top, you'll pick that up and add a little strength to it, and that would make the thing a little bit stronger. And I'm going to go back to my bit about having bright things along the edge of the picture. And what good is that street light? I mean, it's on the edge of the picture. It's not, I mean, it's a nice street light, but I'm not fascinated with it. Again, I don't want the bright spot on the edge. I crop in from that, and that would get rid of the white side at the bottom and the bright light at the top. And you can lose that. Then if you have to balance the picture from the left, so you keep the balloon in the center, you just crop a little bit from the left to balance it off, and that would make the balloon the center of the story, and it would make it much more powerful. With my edits, it could be a 9.
All right, well, that was the last image of the evening. We still got some 9s and 10s to go through and talk to the people who made them. So we're going back to the Castle Guards.
Right. There it is.
And this is from Brian Donovan. Unfortunately, Brian has missed this evening also. And he didn't leave any notes about the image itself or where he shot it. Motor City is from Barbara Masonville.
Thank you, Larry, very much for your comments. The clouds were hanging very low that night, and top of the Rensen there was kind of being hanging out there in the clouds. This is something I grew up looking at, is the Detroit skyline. Thank you again.
You love those clouds.
Mm.
Just love those clouds.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And Larry, I love what you said after that image. You said that bad weather makes good pictures.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Because nobody shoots it. Nobody
Right,
goes out
right.
and shoots in the snow. Nobody goes out and shoots in the rain. You can get
That's right.
raindrops to show.
It's uncomfortable. I don't want to go.
Right. But you're missing out on the best pictures. Missing out on the best. I mean, you guys are out in Colorado. You got buffalo out there. For God's sake, go out and get the buffalo in the snow. Because then he looks like a buffalo.
Okay, so any member who's wanting to maybe go lead a group of the Focus Club to go shoot buffalo in the wintertime, talk to me or Kyle. Lights On at the Mansion is from Bill Rothenmeyer.
Yes, thank you for your review. I took this last week, and it's at the mansion at Highlands Ranch. And it's another cell phone picture. Thanks again for your review.
Mm-hmm. It's the light.
Yeah.
It's all about the light.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Night Guardian. This is from Ron Schaller.
Yes, thanks for your comments. This was taken over in Utah. It was a single exposure. The rock was light painted. It was with a 15 millimeter lens and a 15-second exposure that kept the stars relatively sharp.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate your comment about giving it a little bit more of a base to sit on. So I'll keep that in mind. Thank
What
you.
did you paint it? What did you paint it with?
It was a flashlight that actually someone else was painting the rock, and we tried several different exposures, and the light was a lot warmer that was shining on the rock, so I brought it back to more its red color.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's nicely done.
Thank you. Appreciate
Very
it.
nice. Kansas Gas Stop is from Kiefer Hunterford.
Hey, thanks for not noticing the white border again. I went out. I went out a couple of weeks ago, and
I
went
saw the
on a-
border.
you
Yeah.
saw it, but it didn't offend
But
you as much on this one.
it's subtle this time. It's
Yeah.
subtle. Yeah.
I was in Kansas a couple of weekends ago, and I went out to shoot for this, and I came across this little gas station. And really, it came from this angle. I was almost going to call it feng shui gas station because it's kind of got a Japanesey shape.
Mhm.
And then the crop, I wanted to make it a little bit cinematic, but not too wide. And then those poles were actually red, and it just totally worked to use in Darktable to just drag the red hue over the blue, and it just made it more coherent and less pop.
Yes. Yes.
So
If that had been red, you'd have lost the whole thing.
yeah, it also brought down that band of orange on the horizon, so it brought that more to blue too. So it just worked. Thank you for feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Nice shot, Kiefer.
It is.
And good on the post-processing too.
Yep.
Crossing Lines is from Stuart Little.
Yeah, this is a picture of the Millennium Bridge downtown Denver, and that building to the right there is the same building that was in the first group of pictures that was black and white, but he just did the corner of the building. So
Oh, okay.
there's a little bit of repetition here, I think.
It's okay.
Thanks for your comments and your critique.
My pleasure.
All right, Small Town Friday Night is from Gary Witt. And he wrote that this photo was taken in a small section of the Norwich, Connecticut downtown on a Friday evening. This portion of the street was lit up for only a short time. He made the most of it. It's
Yeah.
excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Train is from John List. Johnny, you here tonight? Guess not. This is the old Littleton train station. Caribbean Nights is from Thomas Sawyer.
All righty. Well, thanks for the positive feedback, Larry. I appreciate that. This is just one of my three passions. So having passions in photography really helps. So my three passions are obviously photography, traveling, and sailing, in particular the Caribbean. It was really exciting. It was like you said, dramatic, so much so that I'm going to do it again this coming January. So thank you again.
That's a nice image.
Sorry Most is from Ben Hernandez. He didn't leave any notes about this, but I had to Google it just to see for myself. This is a bridge from the Ottoman Empire, apparently, that's in Bosnia.
Okay.
Carl, I think this bridge was one that was blown up and in Mosul and then had been rebuilt. I think that's what I learned from Ben.
That might be.
Mm.
And once again, we got great black and white from Ben. The Alien Bridge is from Brian Donovan. And Brian didn't leave any notes on this, unfortunately. And Not a Hollywood Set is from Oz Feniger.
Yeah, this was taken
This
also
is-
on a trip to Uzbekistan. This is in far western Uzbekistan. The old walled city, the wall is around the old part of the city. And I took it as a more wide angle picture originally, and then decided I needed to crop it some. But I guess I cropped it a little more than I needed to. But I'll try adding more black on top and a little bit more foreground in the bottom. And so thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, another thing, on the left side, left of the tower, there was a large black area. And I took brick from above that on the flat wall and brought it down to eliminate some of that black area. Yeah. And also this was again with an iPhone. So thank you.
I love to see the results people are getting with iPhone images. Just awesome.
It's not necessarily the tool you're using, but it's the eye behind the tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And An Amsterdam Evening Stroll is another one from Gary Witt. He said the cafe front seemed so iconic when I discovered it that I felt compelled to wait around until after dark to try and catch patrons going in and out or passing by. Unfortunately, there was never any patrons who wanted to sit outside.
I think if they're better off not sitting there
Yeah,
because they would be diminished.
that was a good capture and well worth the wait.
Hmm.
Penny for your thoughts, Mr. Lincoln, is from John Helfrich.
Yeah, that was captured on a visit to the Capitol a number of years ago. I was at the other end of the reflecting pool, so it's taken with a telephoto lens, and I captured all of those. I just wanted to capture all those people standing in front of the memorial.
Okay,
Telluride is from Thomas Sawyer.
yeah, that's another one of mine. First of all, what an exciting time that was. I love Telluride and the surrounding area, and I do appreciate the comments. I'll probably go back tomorrow and kind of do a little more editing and see what I can do to clean this up a little bit. But thank you.
Could I ask a question about this? Could I ask a question about this? The person in the foreground with the white shirt,
Yeah.
is that too distracting? What are your thoughts there?
Well, here's one of the problems I had when I was up there. There was a ton of people. So trying to find somebody that wasn't distracting or anything at all was really difficult. That's why I took a lot of pictures, and I took this one in particular. I was actually fortunate to get this one because, again, the mass amount of people were just overwhelming.
Hmm.
It was
Thank
kind
you.
of unusual to be launching balloons from the middle of the street. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, there was about 8 of them, I believe, and this was actually at sunset.
I mean, the white shirt isn't ideal, but you're looking at kind of a photojournalism thing.
Yeah.
And with photojournalism, you can get a little leeway with that kind of a thing because you're showing an event that's taking place and you don't have the ability to add and subtract from your composition. I can't move people. I can't. There's minimal stuff you can do. So you're allowed a little bit of leeway with that. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry about the whole lot. Again, it's not bright white, so it's not terrible. And you would help diminish that if you brighten the balloon up.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to play around with that because that would certainly help. But yeah, the funny thing I notice is every time I see some of my images on one computer versus the next, sometimes the color and the contrast can change from computer to computer.
Yep,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And then we put it through Zoom and it gets worse.
Yep. Just calibrate the monitor that you're using.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And we do have a, as I mentioned in the newsletter, we do have a calibration tool that's available to all the members. You just have to ask for it and coordinate to get it and calibrate your system. And there's a page on our website under member resources that talks about the tool and has video tutorials and links to the software and all that stuff too.
Excellent. I was in Mike's camera the other day, and one of the salesmen actually told me about that, so I might look into that.
Realistically, judges are supposed to calibrate their screens before they judge a competition. I'm just letting you, I mean, that's something they're supposed to do. So if you match the calibration, it'll help your images.
Yeah, a bunch.
This
Tom,
this picture was a blast. I love this.
Tom, somebody at Mike's camera told you specifically about our calibration tool?
No, not yours, just
Oh.
calibration in general.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just saying that there was things on the market that I could possess.
Yeah.
Just a generic kind of a description.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. My bad.
Yeah, if you want to spend $150, more power to you.
Yeah, that's the downside.
But the one thing with, most monitor calibration tools, they also have a sensor for room light because the room light reflecting off your screen can affect it too.
Yeah.
So if you're really serious about it, we're not going to let you have the club one for months and months on end. We're gonna want it back so that somebody else can use it.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on.
I know.
Telluride, what a beautiful place.
No, it's very cool. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. And thank you, Larry, for all your wonderful commentary.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Two or three things that people should take away from this is, like I said, the bad weather makes good pictures. Don't have big black holes in your images or bright stuff on the edges. We have had other judges who talked about, they call it edge patrol or something like that.
Yeah.
Or border patrol. Basically, look around the edges of your image and see if there's anything distracting there. It's going to pull your eye away.
Absolutely.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
Bob Corson. Hey, I haven't joined your group yet, but planning on just after this. It was a great. I love seeing somebody else critique images, but can I make one comment about night photography?
Sure.
So I'm part of a Nightscaper conference, learn night shooting years ago. And for those who do night shooting, there was somebody who was shooting Temple of the Sun or Moon. Just to let people know that Utah is a dark state. Any type of lighting is technically prohibited in the state of Utah. We do promote the fact that you can use what's called low-level lighting, LLL, to do things like that. But be aware that that those places are parks. And so things like Mesa Arch, Delicate Arch, all those kind of places around Utah, all kinds of, I'll call it light painting effects are illegal because it takes away from the experience that we all want in night photography or just watching the night skies. So do some looking on what are called low-level lighting types of lights and just trying to pass on some education. So light painting has kind of distracted a huge amount from the people that don't do photography. And so I just wanted to pass that on and for some educational purposes. So,
May I ask a question?
yeah.
Well, what would they say about using something like a loom cube?
Yep, that's something that you can use as long as
Okay.
it's up close to the, to where you're at.
Right.
But that's considered a low level lighting. Anything that you can control the lighting from 3,200, I'll say loosely, lumens to 5,000. Most of them have a little dial. You lower the light.
Right.
It does not take a lot of light to
No.
illuminate a subject at 15 seconds. I've been to several places where I had lights up and somebody asked me, "Hey, I like to do some light painting, da 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 da." And I said, "Do me a favor, take a picture at 3,200 at 20 seconds and tell me what you see." So
Yeah.
it's lit. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to pass that on. So because the more that we can educate those type of things, especially Colorado now has 12. If you're not familiar with the Nightscape Conference, that's starting to happen. I'm part of Dark Sky Colorado. And so, I'm just out there as a steward of the night.
Appreciate the information. I wasn't even aware that that was the thing.
Yes, it is a major thing. Because, imagine how many people go if you've been to Delicate
Mhm.
Arch and you're sitting there at, even 10 o'clock and there's a bunch of people flashing lights around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a good experience. And
Yeah, it
so
does kind of ruin
Utah
it.
is
Yeah.
the whole state of Utah is considered a dark state for that reason.
Good for them.
And just to let you know, if you search, there's 12 currently in Colorado and 15 works. Pretty cool.
Nice. Thank you, Bob.
Yep. And I'll be seeing you soon, Carl. I'll be joining and be participating more with some of your stuff. So thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome, Bob. I'm really excited that there were, I didn't count them exactly, but I bet there were half a dozen images tonight, maybe more, that were from photo walks this year that we put on Rhino and the most recent one in Lohi and Platte Valley. Really cool.
Yeah, I noticed that when I put the list together, a lot of the people commented and said, "Yeah, I took this one on the Rhino District walk that we did." That kind of thing.
Yeah,
So hopefully we can put together a fair number of them next year too.
definitely. Definitely. There's one that I posted on the Facebook page this Saturday at the Chris Kendall Market that Jim and I are leading. We're starting at 2 or 2:30, I can't remember, but it's on the Focus Facebook page.
Hey, Carl. I don't know if you got my email. I will say I'm part of the Metro Denver photography group. I sent you an email that I do this every year. I do an annual holiday walk. My holiday walk this year is the 20th. If you want to combine groups and combine us to, I do about a 2-mile walk starting at the State Building and work my way up to 16th Street and a couple other places. So, and then at the end, there's beer at the Thirsty Lion.
I actually mentioned it before you logged in, Bob.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for having me. I enjoyed the experience. I wish you all well.
Yeah,
Thanks, Larry.
we enjoyed
Thanks,
your
Larry.
expertise, Larry. Thank you.
Appreciate all your comments.
Yep.
My pleasure. Good night.
See ya.
Yeah.
We'll
Thank you.
hope to see everybody on December 10th at our annual banquet and awards dinner. See you guys.
That should be a wonderful festive evening.
Bye.
Indeed. All right. Thanks, Carl.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.